Dragon Ball GT is one of the weird points of the Dragon Ball timeline and how it kind of cements itself in the Dragon Ball sphere as the like quote unquote like spiritual successor sequel to Z, but not really. And it's something I kind of want to talk about because there's a lot of things that I see about Dragon Ball GT that I don't really see talked about a lot either. And the first one I kind of want to talk about is this feels like I don't know if it is. You can tell me in the comments, but I think Dragon Ball GT might be one of the like most official fan fictions ever created for anime because from my knowledge, Toriyama has no hands in GT at all. He has only ever acknowledged it as a fun side story, but it is fully backed by Shueisha and Toei, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that a full quote unquote sequel series to one of the biggest animes in the world can have no input from the actual original creator and be so successful. It's strange, but it also makes a lot of sense when you dive into GT as a whole, because GT as a whole, while it does kind of work as this sequel series, it takes place a couple years after Z ends. It really tries to be a love letter to Dragon Ball at the same time. There's a lot of things it tries to do to pay homage to a lot of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z that it just really doesn't hit the mark. And I kind of want to talk about those points today because it's almost masterful how they try and fail. It's kind of messed up to say fail. Fail isn't really the right word, but like they just missed the mark the whole time. And when we look at it from the beginning, I mean, it's cool to see like where Goku and Oob are, training where they are after a couple of years. We see Pilaf and his gang, Shu and Mai, up to no good again, and that's when they use the Black Star Dragon Balls, and that's how we start GT. This all happens in one episode, by the way. We catch up with Goku and Oob. Pilaf and gang climbs Kami's lookout. They find the Black Star Dragon Balls, which nobody knew was in there, by the way. They summon the Red Shenron, and then they accidentally wish Goku to be a child again. And that's how we start. And by the way, that's only the first like 10 minutes. After that, we are introduced to Pan. We're reunited with Master Roshi. And then we go talk to Chi-Chi and Gohan and Videl all about what happened. And then King Kai comes in to inform us that, hey, I know we can wait for Goku to re-age again, but since the Black Star Dragon Balls were used, if they're not collected in a year, terrible apocalypse. I gotta tell you guys, it's gonna be bad. So get to collecting, you know what I mean? And so the first couple episodes are just everybody preparing for the voyage. Gohan is initially on the team to go, but then it ends up being, Goku, Pan, and Trunks, like it always is. And it kind of tries to recreate the feel of original Dragon Ball, and it tries to recreate the feel of the adventure portion that Dragon Ball started as. And it really doesn't. It really doesn't. It really just turns into this like trying to be comedic, wacky, zany thing that doesn't really hit. It kind of just turns into the Goku show once again, and it really flies with that a lot. Everything that happens is, Trunks, Pan tries something, Trunks tries something, and then Goku saves the day. Albeit, to be fair, Z and at this point Super kind of do the same thing, but it feels weird in GT's sense because there's almost majority of times that none of it feels like anybody else is doing anything. It feels like nobody else has any power besides Goku, and he's still this powerful as a child. It's a strange thing, and the Black Star Dragon Ball saga is just kind of like this quick. It's very fast too, because these sagas are really quick. I think GT's like 70-80 episodes, and we just fly by these things. We fly by like Legic, Rildo, and then we go to Meta Rildo, and then we're immediately in the Baby Saga. It goes so quickly, it goes so fast, and we immediately jump into the Baby Saga, and that's where We get all the cool stuff. This is where all the cool stuff starts in GT, in my opinion. The Black Star Dragon Ball saga, if we just skip that and we started the Baby saga, sure. And you'll notice too, if you're reading the Super manga, a lot of these things, these ideas carried over into Super. So like the Tuffles, as a whole, Granola and his race are like the exact same thing, except Granola just keeps his own powers. He doesn't take over anybody's bodies. But we go to Baby, who's the first like actually cool villain of GT, who's really nice, really cool, really nice with it. Goes on this like kind of like not alien, but like I don't know how to explain it, but he starts snatching bodies like Ginyu and stealing them, but to way more effectiveness. And with that, we get cool things like Baby Goten and Gohan, Baby Vegeta, Baby Bulma, all of those cool little side villains into Super Baby Vegeta 2, who is, I want to say, the second coolest. We'll get into Super 17 later. He's the next arc, but Super Baby Vegeta is downright the coolest one. He has all the justification in his villainy, and that's when we get some weird like extra. It's not even training. They just figure out how to grow Goku's tail back, and so they do. And he turns into a golden great ape, and that leads us into the Super Saiyan 4 transformation, the absolute coolest thing to come out of GT. We can all agree on that. Super Saiyan 4 was the coolest thing to come out of GT, and it had like this cool purpose, or like not cool purpose, this cool like backing behind it, I guess, where it was like the great ape goes Super Saiyan, and then it's condensed into the size of the person, or it's condensed into the person. A little bit how like Wrathful Broly works in the Broly movie, where he kind of transforms into the great ape, but he doesn't actually go through the body transformation. He just gets the power up, and it kind of makes him lose his mind. Except in Super Saiyan 4, he doesn't. But that's where we get the coolest part of all of GT, and Baby Saga is probably my favorite saga. I do like the Shadow Dragon saga a lot. Super 17 is probably my third. But that's probably the coolest thing we get from the Baby saga is Baby and Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And then we jump into the Super 17 saga. A lot of the nostalgia bait in this one, because we literally just open a portal to hell. That's all we do, and we fight almost every single villain in this saga. There is like everybody. Cell comes back, Dr. Gero comes back, the Ginyu Force comes back. The craziest one is Cooler comes back. So that like insinuates a lot with Cooler coming back. Like that's insinuating that a lot of the movies are canon in this timeline. So that's insinuating that Cooler, Janemba, Broly, a lot of these characters are insinuated and alluded to be canon, which is crazy, because that throws off so much of what we knew about Z and the whole timeline. But that's why this was like the ultimate fan fiction, really, because it brought everything together. And then we got, Super 17, who was a decent villain, but like, I mean, meh. in the whole scheme of it, meh. I think in GT as a whole, 2 sagas were good. 2 sagas made sense story-wise too. That's Baby and then the Shadow Dragon saga. The Shadow Dragon saga was so good. It had this very cool concept of overusing the Dragon Balls and the consequences that came with overusing the Dragon Balls. And it really showed how the main reasoning of Dragon Ball being the Dragon Balls really cemented that these are super powerful objects that can't be messed with. And what happened when they were messed with them too much is the seven Shadow Dragons. The 7 Shadow Dragons, although four of them not being too cool, Ice, Nova, and Sin Shenron were all super cool. And then we get the beast Omega Shenron, who just goes on a rampage. He goes on an absolute rampage, and that's when we get things like Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and then we get something amazing in Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, who kind of just felt weird if you kind of throw some sense into it. It's weird because Vegito was the one to be, you know, the funny haha toying with the enemy, and then Gogeta was the one that was supposed to take stuff seriously and, you know, just end fights. And so it's kind of weird if you look back and then you see Gogeta being so, you know, trolling. But it's fun. It's still fun. I think they did a really good job with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I think creating the strongest character at that time was huge, and it made a lot of moments for for Dragon Ball in its dry period of like 15-16 years or something. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a long time until Super came out. And then we get to, you know, the classic thing of they use too much power, they defuse, and then they have to try to figure something out. And then we get the classic Spear Bomb ending, just to kind of mirror the ending of the Buu Saga. And then we go on this wild thing where like Goku quote unquote dies, not really though. He like goes away to some other world. I don't even know if he goes to the other world. He just disappears with Shenron, really. That's what he does. And we get the flash forward of Goku Jr., Vegeta Jr., and old lady Pan at the world tournament, and this flash of Goku, and he gets our final goodbye. And GT is strange as a whole. GT is very strange, but I think for the time it was very good. But always looking back on things like this, it's so weird to see that essentially a fan fiction was made official on this scale. Like, I'm talking, we got this in games, we got this in well, mostly games, really. That's all GT really had after that. But we got the official anime from Toei and Shueisha. It's kind of crazy to see that type of stuff with something that has nothing to do with the creator but is his technical work. That's kind of the weird part I wanted to talk about, where like that so much of this was like made up and just used, that I couldn't help but just talk about it, because GT is so weird, but like also doesn't do a lot for the Dragon Ball series, because we don't use any of it anymore. Anytime we use GT, it's mostly in a game. There's nothing of significance coming from GT that is being used in Super yet. There's like homages to it, or like the ideas pulled from it, I guess you can say. But now they're being used semi-officially. And it feels weird, because you can't tell if this was happening. These you can't tell if these things are being used because of GT or because of the mind of Akira Toriyama and Toyotaro. It doesn't make sense, but I kind of just wanted to talk about GT, how weird it is as a series as a whole. And that's really all I had. I will catch you guys in the next video.